came and said, like, there's a lot of that's government-based going on.
Then I'm going to get declared a suppressive person and labeled an enemy. Your only person that you could talk to in the church is the person who deals with refunds, but they can't talk to you because you're declared an enemy to the church. So they're holding millions and millions of dollars of people's money.
You spoke about Scientology.
Yeah.
Does that have to do with anything with the Illuminati, or is that just separate entity?
They're separate entities, but they work in tandem.
Let's take a moment to unpack a story that's as wild as it is unsettling. One that ties together high-profile names, secretive rituals, and some serious allegations. According to outspoken music industry figure Jaguar Wright, Sean Diddy, Combs' mansion wasn't just a hotspot for celebrity gatherings. It was allegedly a hub for something far more cryptic: private Scientology gatherings, attended by big names like Jada Pinkett Smith. As the legal heat surrounding Diddy intensifies, more unsettling claims are emerging. Jaguar alleges that Diddy regularly held what she calls freak-offs, where these gatherings crossed into ritualistic territory inspired by Scientology. She draws a direct connection between the methods used to control dissent in Scientology and Diddy's rumored tactics of coercion and silence, particularly through blackmail. But Jaguar's claims go deeper and darker. She suggests that when she refused to be pulled into what she describes as a cult-like circle, she paid a terrible price: her son's death, which she believes was meant to intimidate her into silence. Still, she's refused to back down and is now pulling the curtain back on a world where fame, influence, and fear walk hand in hand. This raises some heavy questions. If these practices are as widespread and manipulative as Jaguar claims, how do they continue to operate largely unnoticed by the public eye? And more urgently, with all the truths she's now choosing to share, is her life at risk? This isn't just celebrity gossip. It's a disturbing look at how power can be protected by secrecy, and how those who challenge it often pay a steep price. Let's dig deeper.
Big, gaudy, Masonic looking thing. You know, it's all right, architecturally wise, but what gets really interesting about it is when the sun goes down, they turn the lights on, blood red, pure blood red. The whole building glows in pure blood red. I don't know, it just feels disturbing to me. You put this thing up that looks like some kind of Masonic monument where Biggie Smalls was shot to death. And at night, you thought that the color should be blood red. I don't know.
By now, it's no longer shocking to hear whispers tying Diddy to Scientology. It's become something of an open Hollywood secret. As a longtime member of the entertainment elite, Diddy has forged deep connections across powerful circles, from the upper tiers of the music industry to corridors of political influence. Among these circles are prominent Scientologists, individuals whose beliefs and practices are known more for controversy than clarity. One of the most talked about links is Diddy's relationship with Will and Jada Pinkett Smith. While the couple has never publicly confirmed membership in the Church of Scientology, their actions and affiliations suggest otherwise. Former Scientologists have spoken out about frequently spotting Jada at prominent Scientology centers, particularly in Los Angeles. Actress Leah Remini, once a devout Scientologist turned outspoken critic, detailed many of these experiences in her memoir, Troublemaker, Surviving Hollywood and Scientology. She recalled regularly seeing Jada at the church's Celebrity Center, a place tailored to its star-studded followers. Leah didn't just see Jada around town, she saw her actively participating. One of the strangest stories Leah shared was of an evening at Tom Cruise's home, another high-profile Scientologist. Among the guests were the Smiths. What began as a social evening took a bizarre turn when Cruise insisted the adults join him in a game of hide-and-seek, inside a massive 7,000-square-foot mansion surrounded by acres of privacy. Leah, puzzled by the suggestion, initially declined, only for Tom to tag her and declare her it before running off. It was a moment she would later recount with incredulity, yet it underscored how deeply embedded these social rituals were within Scientology. Circles. In interviews that followed, Leah doubled down on her belief that Jada was fully immersed in Scientology. "I know Jada's in. She's been in for a long time," Leah stated plainly. While she never witnessed Will at any of the church's events, Jada, she said, was a regular. The Smiths even helped launch a now-defunct school that reportedly followed Scientology principles. But according to Jaguar Wright, there's far more beneath the surface, and it's not just about Scientology. She alleges that the church has partnered with other secretive organizations like the Illuminati, creating a web of mutual protection, surveillance, and silence. These groups, she claims, shield one another from scrutiny and retaliation, while keeping tabs on anyone who dares to expose them. And Leah? Jaguar suggests the church tried hard to keep her quiet, because if Leah's stories continue to reach the public, they could cause irreparable damage to the tightly controlled narrative surrounding Scientology and its celebrity followers.
About Scientology.
Yeah.
Does that have to do with anything with the Illuminati, or is that this separate entity?
They're separate entities, but they work in tandem.
Right.
They spy on each other's people for each other.
Right.
You know, if they don't want to make it look like they're stalking one of their, defectees, they'll ask somebody from TMZ to do it for them. Oops, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that out loud, allegedly. Harvey. They farm it out, make it seem like it's just paparazzi stuff when they're actually doing investigation. And Scientologists, they're relentless. A lot of people farm out their gaslighting work to them for a profit. That's LA.
Over the years, Will and Jada Pinkett Smith's deep ties to Scientology have become increasingly hard to dismiss. Though they've never publicly declared membership in the church, their investments and actions tell a more complex story. 1. Of their most notable ventures was the launch of the New Village Leadership Academy, an educational institution framed as an innovative approach to public schooling. But behind its mission of transforming education lay a heavy influence from Scientology. The curriculum at New Village wasn't just unconventional. It was built on study technology, a learning method developed by L. Ron Hubbard, Scientology's controversial founder. Moreover, a number of the school's leadership roles, including the director of learning and the artistic director, were reportedly filled by practicing Scientologists. Eventually, as parents started connecting the dots between their children's schooling and the church's ideology, concern spread. The result? The school quietly shut its doors amid mounting scrutiny over its religious undercurrents. Despite the backlash, Jada never seemed to fully distance herself from Scientology's teachings. She's openly discussed studying Dianetics, another creation, of L. Ron Hubbard, a self-help system involving auditing sessions that claim to uncover and heal past trauma. Scientologists believe that emotional and physical pain originates from engrams, which Dianetics promises to identify and resolve. The claims extend to far-reaching territory, from migraines and depression to even cancer and diabetes, all purportedly treatable through these methods. Critics, however, argue that Dianetics isn't rooted in science, calling it pseudoscience at best and dangerously misleading at worst. Nonetheless, echoes of its language, the ego, the shadow self, the idea of spiritual grounding, have made their way into Jada's public musings. In one interview with Jay Shetty, the two discussed soul connections and past lives. Jada spoke about grounding her identity not in ego, but in a higher source, ideas that mirror themes from Dianetics, even if cloaked in more palatable spiritual terms. But according to industry whistleblower Jaguar Wright, there's a darker side to this story. She alleges that these teachings, masked as empowerment, are used to manipulate and control, particularly young men. Under the guise of mentorship, Jaguar claims, individuals are pulled into intimate, high-pressure environments where consent blurs and boundaries vanish. These scenarios, she says, aren't just spiritual, they're exploitative. Jaguar draws a direct connection between Jada and Diddy, accusing both of using influence, psychological tactics, and Scientology-rooted practices to control others. She describes so-called mentorship gatherings that devolved into disturbing rituals. According to Jaguar, even well-known figures like Meek Mill and August Alsina have been caught in this web, some fleeing traumatized, others too deep to escape. The allegations don't end there. As Diddy faces legal scrutiny, harrowing testimonies from former partners like Cassie have begun to surface. Her statements paint a chilling portrait of prolonged abuse, manipulation, and trauma. She describes being subjected to multi-day freak-off sessions where consent was ignored, physical boundaries were violated, and staff were instructed to enable and clean up unspeakable acts. These weren't isolated incidents, they were part of a pattern. Perhaps most disturbing are claims that Diddy used psychological manipulation, what some call brainwashing, to convince victims that their suffering was a form of devotion. His former bodyguard, Gene Deal, has spoken publicly about this, suggesting Diddy learned these tactics from his associations within Scientology's inner circle. These testimonies raise a sobering question. When power is combined with psychological influence and a cloak of spiritualism, how do victims find their voice or justice? Let's be real. Some of the things being said about Diddy and his circle aren't just controversial, they're chilling. The kind of behavior being described goes beyond fame and excess. It starts to sound like something out of a horror film, something you'd never expect from people with so much influence and visibility. But when power, secrecy, and ideology mix, the result can be terrifying. Diddy's name has been tied to Scientology for years, even though he's never confirmed any involvement. Rumors have long swirled about his connections to high-profile circles with deep roots in both Hollywood and politics. One particularly disturbing account came from a former escort named Jonathan Addy. While under police questioning, Addy allegedly linked Diddy to the Bull, often referred to as the black elite equivalent of the Illuminati, and claimed Diddy had political ties through powerful attorneys like Mark Garagos and Ben Meiselas. Diddy's social network, too, raises eyebrows. One of his longtime friends is actor Ashton Kutcher, who, alongside his wife Mila Kunis, has been publicly associated with Danny Masterson, the actor recently sentenced to 30 years to life for multiple sexual assaults. Masterson is not just any celebrity. He's a committed Scientologist whose behavior, many believe, was shaped by the same environment Diddy is alleged to operate in. What makes this web of connections so troubling is that Ashton and Mila publicly vouched for Danny's character during his trial, submitting letters to the court asking for leniency, something that sparked intense backlash. Critics slam the couple for defending a convicted predator, especially when their apology video felt rehearsed and insincere. But the connections don't stop there. Reports have surfaced suggesting that Danny was a regular at Diddy's infamous freak-off parties, private events rumored to involve heavy drug use, non-consensual acts, and psychological manipulation. Insiders claim these gatherings weren't just about pleasure, they were about power and control. It's been alleged that Danny and Diddy shared information and practices rooted in Scientology, including the use of GHB, a drug often used to incapacitate victims. Notably, GHB can be absorbed through the skin, and some reports indicate it was among the substances seized during the raid on Diddy's home, found among personal items like baby oil and lubricant. The timeline also raises questions. Masterson reportedly began associating with Diddy and Kutcher around 2001, a period that coincides with the start of the accusations against him. By the time Masterson tried selling his home in 2007, it had reportedly transformed from a standard residence into something that eerily resembled a surveillance bunker. A magazine feature described his house as filled with Scientology materials and outfitted with 17 indoor cameras, a full-blown control hub hidden in a closet that allowed him to monitor every corner of the property. Sounds familiar? That's because when the federal agents raided Diddy's house, they found a nearly identical setup. Surveillance equipment in virtually every room, even bathrooms. According to reports, Diddy would use this footage to blackmail guests, capturing celebrities in compromising situations at his parties and keeping the evidence locked away as leverage. This level of manipulation aligns closely with practices seen in the Church of Scientology. The church is known for controlling members through surveillance, psychological pressure, and isolation. It labels critics, even family members, as suppressive persons and urges followers to cut ties with them. The end goal, complete loyalty, no matter the cost. Everything from isolating victims, keeping them dependent, and using fear as a leash, it mirrors both Scientology's internal dynamics and the disturbing allegations now facing Diddy and those in his circle. These aren't just stories of wild celebrity behavior. They're warnings about how unchecked power, cloaked in spirituality or fame, can turn into something far darker.
They have a policy called fair game that they claim has been canceled, and they in fact did issue another policy that says fair game has been canceled. However, there's another policy that says, however, dealing with suppressive people remains the same. Dealing with suppressive people means to go after them, try to destroy their lives, try to find any crimes they've committed, expose them hard. You can lie about them. They have Scientologists picketing in front of people's houses going, don't trust your neighbor, implying that he's a sexual deviant. They go after your jobs. And when that doesn't work, they go after your family.
One of the most chilling tactics used by the Church of Scientology, according to many former insiders, is its methodical process of isolation. Bit by bit, members are urged to sever ties with the people who care about them most, friends, partners, even family, until they're left with no one but the church. In that vacuum, the Scientology community becomes their new world, their source of support, love, and loyalty. It's a slow, calculated unraveling of independence disguised as spiritual alignment. Enter Jaguar Wright, the outspoken singer and whistleblower who's never been one to hold her tongue, especially when it comes to calling out the underbelly of fame and power. She's spoken at length about the dark side of Scientology, peeling back layers that many fear to even acknowledge. But in a recent interview, she revealed a haunting new chapter in her story. According to Jaguar, members of the so-called elite, powerful figures behind the curtain, once approached her with an offer that could have changed her life. The offer? Proposition? Enormous sums of money in exchange for her silence and cooperation. She'd be expected to abandon her truth-telling mission and become a voice for their carefully crafted narrative, a cog in their propaganda machine. But Jaguar didn't waver. She turned them down flat, not out of naivety, but because her principles weren't for sale. She refused to betray what she believed in, no matter the price. And what happened next, she says, was devastating beyond words. As retaliation, she claims, they took the life of her son. For Jaguar, this wasn't just about losing a child. It was a message, a warning shot from the shadows, a brutal consequence for refusing to fall in line. Her grief, however, has only strengthened her resolve. Where others might have gone silent, Jaguar has grown louder, more fearless. Her story is a powerful and painful reminder of how far certain forces will go to protect their secrets.
They're not worried about the truth. They're worried about what they can do to profit from it. That's why I am the way I am. Most people who know me, who've ever done work with me, I'm not a money hound. I'm not sitting there, hey, give me this and you better give. No, I only ask people to pay for my time. The truth is free. Should be. I'm smarter than all of these people and they know it.
What do you have to lose? Like, what do you have to lose? If
my son's legacy. My son died because he was my son.
Jaguar Wright has made it clear. The devastating loss of her son didn't break her. It ignited something even deeper. In her eyes, his death was meant to silence her, to shut down a voice that speaks without a script, without a paycheck, and without fear. But instead of retreating, she doubled down, convinced that if she stops now, it would only leave more room for those paid to distort the truth and push the narratives of the powerful. In one of her raw, unfiltered moments, Jaguar explained the cost of walking this path. I knew what I was stepping into, she said. I knew I'd have to let go of everything: family, friendships, comfort, money, even the illusion of safety. That's how they get you. They dangle the human. Connections, the promises of security, the shiny incentives. But if they can influence you, they can control you. And I won't be controlled. Jaguar credits her ability to stay grounded to the few people in her life who truly care, like Odell, someone she describes as her anchor. He cares about the little things, she said. Me, I care about the truth. That's my only loyalty. She makes it clear that if she were willing to play the game, to sell out, to play nice with the elites, she'd be unimaginably wealthy by now. I'd be a trillionaire already, she said. If I had the heart for cruelty, I'd be bigger than Jay-Z, but I'm not built like that. Of course, refusing to fall in line hasn't come without consequence. Jaguar has faced arrest on flimsy charges. She's been stalked, harassed, and threatened in her own home. Still, she refuses to be silenced, especially not by those who benefit from secrets and shadows. Her presence online is both a statement and a stance. The truth doesn't scare her, and neither do those trying to hide it. So the question now is, what do you make of Jaguar's journey? Do you believe she's being targeted for lifting the curtain on what happens behind closed doors? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and if you're ready to go even deeper, stick around for what comes next.